Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hi, and welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and we are today speaking with Sarah St. John. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to introduce Sarah so that you guys have a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. Sarah St. John is an entrepreneur, podcaster, online course creator, and author. She has created several startups throughout her entrepreneurial career of over a decade. She currently owns a podcast production company called Podseed. She also is the podcast host of Frugalpreneur, Building a Business on a Bootstrapped Budget, which aims to show people how to launch and manage an online business on a budget. I absolutely love this because I was actually just talking to somebody about this yesterday and how important I think it is for every entrepreneur to bootstrap in the beginning of their business. And I can't wait to dive into that with you a little bit more. So tell me, how did you get started on your entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. So it goes back to 2008. I had had six different jobs that year, not at the same time, but
Wow.
throughout the course of the year,
Mm-hmm.
and realized I wanted to work for myself. I think I had always had an entrepreneurial bug
Yeah.
inside of me, but didn't really realize it until that point. And so I started with a photography business. I was doing weddings and portraits, but I realized that while I like taking photos of animals, architecture, and landscape, I didn't like taking photos of people. But that's where the money is, at least initially.
Uh-huh.
But the bigger issue was just the expense to maintain equipment and all that stuff. And so I decided to try an online business model, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I tried a bunch of different things like dropshipping, affiliate marketing, blogging. And it was in that process that I discovered all these free or affordable tools and software that you can use to run a business on a budget. So then I got the idea to write a book called Frugalpreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And then I launched the podcast to coincide with the book, also called Frugalpreneur. And it was just going to be like an extra marketing lever to help promote the book. But I got more leverage and traction with the podcast than the book.
Okay.
And I love the connections and networking. And so I've kept that up. I've been doing that for 3 years and over 150 episodes. And so,
Wow.
and then I wrote a couple of books now on podcasting, created a course, now have a podcast production and marketing agency. But it took, over a decade of trying this, that, and the other thing to finally figure out what my thing is. So
Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic. So over a decade. So you've been doing podcasting before, people got bored 2020, I assume, right? And when did you start podcasting?
2019.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah. Because I know it kind of hit everybody started doing it in 2020 because they're stuck at home. They don't know what to do. And so lots of people started figuring out creative ways to engage and make money. And so that's fantastic. Okay. Awesome. So your podcast took off and you have the Frugalpreneur brand that you've got now. So tell me a little bit more about how that came about. So Frugalpreneur is a brand where really you're promoting how to bootstrap successfully, right?
Yeah. So I had the book and it was really just going to be the book. Well, the podcast was going to go with the book, but it wasn't going to be. The podcast has kind of become its own thing now. And so sometimes I do solo episodes where I talk about a particular software program that I use or recommend that's free or really affordable to run a business on a budget. But a lot of my episodes are interviews, some of which are entrepreneurs who started their business for under 1,000 and then bootstrapped it up to over 7 figures, not per year, but total. and then kind of their stories of how they did that without, venture capital or investments or credit or debt or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, those have been really interesting stories to hear and inspirational. So,
Oh, absolutely. So I have a good bootstrapping story for my business.
mm,
So I have been a serial entrepreneur my whole life. And so most of my business, because most of them were kind of started just to solve a problem that I had or to serve a need. The first one was really just kind of I was looking for business networking opportunities and just didn't find any that I was really engaged with. So I kind of created my own networking group, which became a business that was an event business. But this one in particular, I own a security and event staffing company. And I had, I really wanted the first couple of businesses, I really bootstrapped. Like I really didn't have any money to invest in them on the front end. And so it just took a long time for it to get ramped up. So I was determined that I was going to save enough money to really be able to at least have a good website designed and, get everything done without having to go into debt on the startup side. So I had saved several $1,000s and was so proud of myself. And then, right as I was getting ready to launch my business, my air conditioning unit in my house went out. And so,
mm,
all of the money that I had saved up to start this business ended up going into that, replacing that unit. And so I was left with $500. And so I had
mm,
gone to a couple banks and said, "Hey, can you give me a loan? Can you maybe help me?" I had great credit, but with a brand new business, nobody, banks don't want to take that kind of risk. They know the
yeah,
statistics that, most businesses fail in the first year. I think it's something like 80 to 90% fail in 5 years. So, I mean, it's a high risk. And so I was not able to have any success with the banks. And so I started my business with $500. And so,
mm,
but yeah, it was just reinvesting back into it over and over and over and over again. So,
mm,
and I feel like it really kind of taught me more of that, money management. You really have to be super careful. Like, how bad do you really need that particular item, service, product, whatever it is? And so you really start considering everything in the business. And I think it's allowed us to also be more profitable in the future. So because we don't
mhm,
overspend. We don't spend more than we make. We don't put ourselves in a position to have to question if we're going to make payroll. So,
mm.
we're in a fortunate position now, but bootstrapping, I think, teaches you a lot of great valuable lessons.
Yeah, I love that story. Yeah, I agree. Like, not spending more than you need to, especially
Mm,
starting out.
hmm.
Um, for example, like if someone's starting a podcast, sometimes they'll buy all the expensive stuff instead of just the $60 ATR 2100 mic that I have.
Yeah.
Um, you can start for under $100, but I don't know, people feel like they have to come out of the gate,
Yeah.
swinging or whatever. But yeah, I'm always on the hunt for like new software programs that have a free plan available or a really cheap plan, um, that I can run my business better with, or like something that I can consolidate several
Yeah.
different. So I only need like one software to do a whole bunch of things versus a million different softwares that are, $5 a month or ten
Mm,
bucks a month, and then that adds up. So yeah,
yeah.
that's my approach.
Okay. So you talk a little bit about how to start an online business with just $5. So tell me that strategy. I would love to know because that's very fascinating.
Yeah, if so basically I feel like every online business, well, every business period, but should have a website first and foremost.
Right.
Um and because a lot of people think, oh, well, social media, and it's good to have
Mhm.
social media and you should post there, but you really need to have your own website. And of course you would need a domain for that. And you can get domains for $1 at oneandone.com.
Right.
And then like websites you can actually do for free on WordPress. You just have to pay for hosting, which can be as little as $3 a month. Or you could do like Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, something like that. And then so a website and an email list, a way to have an email list. I use SendFox, which is free
Hmm.
up to a certain number of subscribers. And that one is especially good for like podcasters, bloggers, and YouTubers because it'll
Mm.
automatically generate newsletters with your latest podcast or YouTube video
Oh,
or
great.
blog post. And so basically, when I say starting for $5, that's like just having a website and starting an email list. You
Sure.
can get started. And then maintaining for under 100 a month is what I recommend and what I do personally. So basically that involves a lot of free software or software that's like under $20 a month. Yeah, so that's what I recommend.
Okay. So, what top software programs do you find are most valuable to bootstrapping businesses or bootstrapping entrepreneurs?
So one that I recently found in the past like couple months that I just love is called system.io, systeme.io.
Okay.
And are you familiar with like ClickFunnels or Kartra or Kajabi or any of those?
No.
So it's kind of like that, but a lot more affordable. Basically, it's like an all-in-one platform. You can have websites, sales funnels, membership sites, online courses, email list,
Wow.
community, like all kinds of stuff in one platform. And they have a free plan. And I was on that for and at least the first month or two. And then now I'm on the $27 a month plan. But really, like, that's for a lot of online businesses, that might be the only software you even need to use.
Yeah.
So that, and then for podcasting, I use Descript as far as like the editing of the
Mm,
transcript and the video and the audio um and stuff. Those are probably the two softwares that I use like every day. Well, and
yeah.
SendFox, which is actually free.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. So for everyone who's wanting to start a podcast or a blog, I know blogging is really popular on WordPress has great blogs, and so templates that you can use to build your own blog. So for podcasting, when I was looking at launching my podcast, my podcast is something that I was just doing as a passion project to bring the conversation about success closer to circles of women, because I feel like there's just not enough conversation about success as a female and owning that power and owning that success. So I wanted to bring the conversation closer. So it wasn't really set up to be a money-making venture for me. It was just something that I felt passionate about and wanted to do. So for me, I wanted to be able to not necessarily have the most high-tech products, and I didn't need the most robust, software. I just needed something that did the job and was affordable. And so I looked at so many different sites, and it's amazing how many great sites there are for podcasters to really get the information you need. And I mean, it's astonishing what I found in this whole, area of, you can really build a podcasting business off of maybe 2 or 3 different platforms that you tie in together.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
definitely. Oh, go
So
ahead.
tell me, I'm sorry, you had mentioned affiliate marketing and some of the other online businesses. So those are really super popular right now. So online businesses, affiliate marketing, you had mentioned a few others. Tell me about getting started on that path, because I know that's become a really a hot topic for a lot of people.
With affiliate marketing.
Yeah,
Yeah, so especially like for any kind of content creator, whether it's a podcast, a
yeah.
YouTube channel, a blog, affiliate marketing is a good way to earn extra income. Generally, I mean, unless you have a really big audience, it's probably not going to be enough to pay the bills or anything.
Right.
But, just as extra income. And basically what it is like if there's a relevant product or service or something that you use,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, you could talk about that on your blog or your podcast or YouTube channel, do like a product or service review or even work out something where they sponsor an episode. But even if they're not willing to pay up front to sponsor it, you can kind of self-sponsor it by promoting it. And then assuming that they have an affiliate program, which a lot of companies do, affiliate or referral.
Yeah.
And signing up for that. And then of course, like in your show notes, you would just use your custom link that tracks, like if someone were to click on that basically. Or you can set up like a pretty link where you say like your website name.com / whatever the product is. And but then it directs to that specific link, because usually affiliate links are weird with all kinds of numbers and letters and stuff. So and so if someone were to buy, whether it's, you know, a software program or a book or a course or whatever it is, usually you get sometimes a flat commission, but usually a percentage, anywhere from 10 to 50%. So that's a good way to kind of help monetize a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel, at least to some degree.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Yeah, I like that because you know, monetizing online businesses, when you have a business, you're like, okay, I love writing this blog or I love doing this podcast. But how do I start making money out? You know, and not that you even need to do it necessarily for a, you know, a real income, but even if you're just doing it to pay for itself, you know, that's definitely helpful. So tell me about drop shipping, because drop shipping is another hot topic that, you know, people are talking about a lot, and drop shipping has become a huge avenue for people to make money. So tell me how to get started in drop shipping.
Yeah, so I did that for a while. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can set up a Shopify store and then use an app called Oberlo, Oberlo, which is like a drop shipping marketplace, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Or I don't know if that's the right word. Like suppliers and stuff.
Yeah.
Or you can, if you have a WordPress site, you can use it's been so long now. I think it's AliExpress.
Oh yeah.
There's
I've
a
heard of that one.
particular plugin. Yeah. And basically, so what dropshipping is like you're the middleman basically between the customer and the wholesaler. And so you're getting, like, okay, I'll use an example so mine was baby clothing. That's the one I did. And so the price might actually only be like $2, let's say, for the onesie, but you're charging like $20. So there's an $18 profit. So it's kind of like you're your own Amazon, so to speak. But the challenge though is everybody goes to Amazon. So if you're drop shipping on your own website, it's hard to compete, like to establish a brand and get, you know, because people are gonna be like, well, why buy from this random website when I can go to Amazon?
Yeah.
So I found that was kind of difficult, and plus what I was selling was such low, I mean, you know, $20 here and there versus I don't know, it just didn't end up feeling like it was worth it. But I was experimenting and seeing how it went. Plus the other thing too was like the places where the products would come from were usually in China, and which is why it was so affordable in part. But the problem is people are used to Amazon, you know, 2-day shipping. Well, when something is coming from China, it can take like 2 weeks or something because of customs and all this stuff. And there are like local drop shipping places within the US, like wholesalers that you can connect with, but the profit, I mean, like your profit margin wouldn't be as high because you're actually paying more for the item.
Right.
So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my son actually did drop shipping, and that was the issue that he ran into, is that, he could get people to come to the store, but then they wouldn't buy again because it took so long for them to get the products.
Mm,
He would go to AliExpress or something like that, and it would be a 3 week or 4 week delivery time, or he could pay more and make less money for more quicker shipping from the US. And so for him it just didn't make any sense. He was trying, he was putting his effort into making it work, and he tried a few different products, but it was the same thing when it's coming from China and you're ordering one product at a time, and you're not sitting there with an inventory of products that you can quickly ship out. Make that one product is, 3 week shipping timeline, it just doesn't make sense for most people. We want things now. I mean, Amazon has gotten to the point where you can get things that day. And so it's hard
yeah.
to compete with that. So tell me
Yeah.
about,
And
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, like, yeah, and especially like with what I was doing with onesies and things like that,
Yeah.
it's like if it takes someone 2 to 3 weeks to get it, like the baby or the kid has already
You've
like
grown out of
outgrown it by the time they
it.
get it.
Yes. So you published your book and you did self-publishing, is that right? So tell me
Hmm.
about some advantages of self-publishing over traditional publishing.
Okay. Yeah, I've actually self-published 4 books now.
Wow. Okay.
Uh, and the advantage is it's all on your terms. You control the whole
Mm,
thing. And so like with traditional publishing, well, first of all, it's difficult to even get a traditional deal unless you're like some famous person that people
right.
know about. And in
Mm,
that case, it might make sense to go traditional
hmm.
because of book advances and things like that. But for the average Joe who has information they want to get out there,
Yeah.
especially if it's nonfiction, and with as fast as everything changes within anything nonfiction, like as far as business stuff goes, um, self-publishing, the advantage is you control it. There's no one like over you telling you, like you have full creative control
Hmm.
plus timeline control. You can release it as quickly as you want to, whereas traditional, even once the book is finished, it can take up to a year or something for it to actually come out, as I
Yeah.
understand it. Um, the only disadvantage I feel like is you don't get any kind of book advance, but
Mm,
you make more per book. You can set your own pricing. So, for example, the books that I have, like, so Amazon takes their cut. So I self-publish through Amazon. They take their cut, which is like the printing price, basically, which is like $2.85, I believe, a book if it's print. If
right.
it's an ebook, it's like a 30% of whatever you price it at. And but then you could set the book for $9.99 or $19.99 or whatever, and you would make, well, let's see. Actually, no, wait, hold on. They take out the 285 if it's a print book, plus I think 40%. But
Okay.
still, you can price
Hmm.
it. You're basically, with traditional publishing, you make like a buck a book.
Yeah.
Whereas with self-publishing, yeah, you're not getting an advance, but you could make $5-10 a book. But yeah, just the ability to just have control over the whole process, the timeline especially.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I've known a few people who have self-published, and they've really thought the process was easy and not, it
Mhm.
wasn't too complex. So I think traditional publishers had a really great place when everything was being sold through bookstores, because they had those
Mm.
relationships, and now that pretty much everything is done through Amazon. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I bought a book, from a regular store. I think I had gone to a little boutique bookstore in New Orleans, and I think just out of, just that wanting to purchase something from this local small business is why I bought a
Mm.
book. But I it's tough to even find bookstores anymore. So that's the other challenge, is where do you even find books in print, um readily available, when you're out and about, other than a few Barnes and Nobles that still exist. But yeah.
Yeah, I find like the only place I even buy a book in person now, because I buy books all the time, but it's always on Amazon. But like if I'm at an airport and I see a book that interests me for the plane ride, then I might buy a book. But other than that, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Stuff.
that's the thing with self-publishing. Yeah, you won't get in bookstores 99% of the time. But like you're saying, that's almost becoming irrelevant.
Yeah. I basically only listen to Audible anymore, and that way I can keep going. I'm reading, but I'm on the go. It's
Right.
multitasking. But yes. So tell me about some of the obstacles that you have faced through your journey of entrepreneurialism and starting a podcast.
So I would say one big one is shiny object syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Like always wanting to try new things. Well, until I found podcasting. Of course, I want to try new things within podcasting, but I think that's okay because it's with under an umbrella of that. But like when I was all over the place with affiliate marketing, dropshipping, just everything, kind of this shiny object syndrome of hearing about something and wanting to try that, which I guess ended up being a good thing because then a book came out of it and a podcast.
Yeah.
But still, for the average person, it's yeah, shiny object syndrome for sure. And then I would say another obstacle is just spending so much time learning but not implementing. Like whether it's reading books, taking courses, listening to podcasts, and all that stuff is good. But at a certain point, you need to implement what you're learning.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's pointless and a waste of time.
Absolutely. So who or what inspires you?
I would say any of like the big podcasters and there's a lot of big podcasters, but I'm referring more to the ones that are specifically that deal with podcasting, like John Lee Dumas or Jordan Harbinger. So I think just their stories and how they've been able to, get millions of downloads and millions of dollars through whether it's sponsorships or affiliate relationships or products and services on the back end or whatever it is. I think that's, I guess, kind of who I look up to, or other podcasters basically who have done what I would like to do.
Okay, very cool. That's very good. Okay, so here's a question that I always ask on all of my podcasts. So, it is the Pretty Powerful podcast, and we talk about, power as women. So as women, we often give our power away. We either, do it on purpose where we're trying to give accolades to everyone else, for work that we've done. Or we, it's kind of taken away from us, a boss, a colleague, a spouse, where, they kind of dominate in a way that is maybe not meant to be, but is a little, it just certainly takes our power away from us without our choosing. So tell me about a time that you've given your power away, and then tell me about another time where you've stepped into your power and what the difference was between those two incidents.
So I would say the most common thing that I find myself doing in this area would be if someone were to compliment me or point out something that I did well or something of that nature, I like undermine it or downplay it, I guess.
Yes, I think we do that a lot. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like just me and my personality or if it's because it's a female thing, maybe like because I don't know what it is. Maybe a combination, but I just like I have this one fellow podcast friend. I met her through podcasting. She has her own podcast and we've stayed in contact and whatever. And there's times where she'll like compliment me or suggest, she's like, yeah, you need to speak at this event because you're like an expert in blah 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 topic or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't know about that.
Right.
Like, kind of second guessing my own self or like, what are you talking about?
Mm,
Um, but and then as far as like kind of how to get over that, I have found like actually maybe taking that into account or consideration, like, well, if they think that and feel that way, then maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe I need to consider it. Like maybe I should speak on this topic or whatever it
yeah.
is. Um, and so taking power back in that sense, like instead of downplaying it,
Hmm.
um, maybe take it to heart and actually do something with it. Because if someone says that and thinks that about you,
Yeah.
then there's got to be some truth to it. I mean,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think we do that as women. That's something that I see so common, that somebody will give us a compliment and we immediately we almost we almost feel like it's something we have to downplay in order
mhm.
to be comfortable with it. So it's like, somebody says, "Hey, what a great podcast." I'm like, "Oh, I just had a great guest." "Oh, it's just the guest is really interesting today," or whatever it is. I downplay my role in it and I give the accolades to whomever else I can.
Mm,
Or, "Oh, I just happen to
mhm.
have a good mic." "Oh, it's just, I have a great audio engineer." "Oh, I've got," it's somebody else deserves the accolades, but definitely not me. And so I do that pretty frequently as well. Yes.
Yeah, it's like we have trouble accepting compliments or
Yeah.
thinking that, well, maybe we're actually good at this thing,
Yeah.
or I don't know, maybe it's like we're afraid that we'll get an ego or we don't want to come off that way. And so
Yes.
we're like, we want to
Yeah.
stay humble. And so, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
I would say, but see, hindsight is 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I would say, focus on okay, so basically I went to college for journalism, but I only got a 2-year degree with it.
Mhm.
But and I guess all that's fine, but I think if I knew then what I know now, I would have told myself and I think podcasting existed. Well, no, I guess it wouldn't have until anyway, once podcasting was a thing, I would have told myself but to start podcasting, but the thing is I feel like I guess I kinda had to go through those different things to even get to the point of starting a podcast, but I wish I had started sooner because it was a
Yeah.
lot easier back 10 years ago or
Sure.
however long to yeah, because a lot of the podcasters who are doing so well, with millions of downloads and millions of dollars and all this stuff are the
Yeah.
ones who started 10 years ago or more.
Mhm.
So part of me wishes that I had just jumped on that bandwagon from the get-go, but, like, I don't think I even knew what a podcast was
Yeah.
until I don't know. So, it's kinda
Yeah.
maybe unrealistic, but,
Yeah.
um,
I know
yeah.
we all go through those woulda, shoulda, coulda. I wish there's
Mhm.
a million things I could look back and be like, why didn't I jump on that then? Why did I get involved with
Mhm.
this then? Yes, it's always better to be on ground level. So last question. I've really enjoyed our talk today, but what do you wish more people knew?
Oh, I mean, I guess when it comes to online business, I wish they knew
Yeah.
that it isn't as difficult or as expensive as people imagine it to be.
Yeah.
Like, I think people just assume that you have to spend, you know, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and maybe if you had
Sure.
a retailer brick and mortar, that might be
Mm,
true, um, which is why I recommend online businesses.
right.
But even then, people might think that, and so, yeah, I just wish people would know that anyone can start an online business, do it
Mm,
affordably,
hmm.
and monetize whatever it might be, in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I have really enjoyed our time today. I really appreciate all of your incredible insight.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We've reached the end of the Pretty Powerful podcast, but we hope you will join us again next week. You can check us out at theprettypowerfulpodcast.com, and Sarah's information will be on there as well, so you can reach out to her. So thank you again, Sarah. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time, and until then, step into your own power.